All right, everyone. Let's keep going. Part two of my album collection. Again, just to recap, I will be going through my collection in no such order. I didn't really mention this in the first video, but it's a lot of metal, but there's some not metal, and especially some of the ones that are coming up are not metal. Um, and if I have any repeats of albums, I'll be talking them at the same time for bands. So if I have albums from the same band in multiple places, I will be talking to those at the same time. So let's get started with one of my favorites. One of the first, I think this is the first non metal album. Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms. I think Dire Straits kind of was one of those bands that I was always exposed to when I was younger. Definitely from my parents. But um, as I got older and I started getting into more playing guitar, I really started to appreciate what Mark Knopfler was doing. I always kind of had the thing for guitar players that could sing and they write and they compose and they play lead guitar. I think there's a lot of bands that I respect that have that model, and this is definitely one of them. This is their last album, although I think they had some other things after that, and Mark Knopfler would do some things after that. This is the last album that Dire Straits as a band would come out, and what an album to go out with. I think this went like platinum like multiple times. Everyone knows like Money for Nothing and kind of like the lighthearted hit like Walk of Life, but there's some really cool stuff here. Why Worry is such a great ballad. Um, so so excellently crafted. So Far Away is kind of a really great way to get into this album, with kind of a slow, meandering guitar riff that goes through as Mark Knopfler is almost like mumbling into the mic. And of course, Brothers in Arms, the outro, another ballad, but it's just one of the best 80s ballads of all time. It's a little cheesy, especially if you look at some of the videos of them playing it, but just the guitar lines in there are very tasteful. So yeah, that's Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms, one of my favorites of that kind of um, 80s pop rock stuff. All right, back to metal. Pentagram Relentless. Super interesting story about this, about how the lead singer of this band was just a complete madman. Bobby Liebling, I think it's called. Yeah, this guy was apparently just crazy, but he was also there in the 70s when Sabbath was really big. So Pentagram was one of the first bands that kind of went with the Sabbath thing of doom metal. But they never really got their stuff together until the 80s. When I mean, just reading into this is really interesting. How this album I think came out in like 1986, but all of these songs were written like 5+ years before, and it kind of sounds like it was stuff that was super inspired by Sabbath. But I mean, I could only imagine what this would sound like if it came out 10 years earlier. I'm not sure if all the songs are done in the 70s, but if it did, I think there is a Pentagram album that came out like from the vault that's on Spotify that I listened to that's super cool. Anyway, this song by the 80s, it was full blown doom metal. All of Your Sins, Sign of the Wolf. I mean, these are all songs I'm guessing that they've been playing for a long time at this point, and they had them ready to go. So Pentagram, if you're into classic doom metal, you can't really go wrong with this. I almost had a chance to see them, but I didn't back when I was in college. I should have, because that guy Bobby is apparently kind of a crazy guy with some legal issues that he's gone through. Anyway, let's go into another new pickup. I found this in the bargain bin, but it was super cool. Pyramid of Terror. Wow. I remember hearing about this when it came out, I think in 2018. Um, 2019. Yeah, so I heard about this because I was kind of getting into all these retro bands. I don't have it yet, but I have Eternal Champion, Armor of Ire coming right now. And that kind of set me off into getting all of these new wave of traditional heavy metal bands and actually inspired me to start writing in a band. So Pyramid of Terror were one of those albums that was one of the first ones that I saw in a bin as I had to have it. Some of these bands, that are doing new wave of traditional heavy metal have different levels of how retro they're going for. This is full retro. Pyramid of Terror is it legit sounds like a new wave of British heavy metal band from like '82. It's it sounds legit too, but it's not just that. The songs are actually really good. And it's not just a total nostalgia thing. It's a totally well written, self realized album. I got to listen to this more. I don't even really have any standout tracks because I kind of just listened to this all the way through, and it was just such a banger. I recommend Pyramid of Terror if you've not checked this out. It's I haven't really heard about what these guys are doing since then, but very cool album. All right, Pallbearer, Sorrow and Extinction. This is epic doom, kind of almost avant-garde or shoegaze, a little bit of alternative in there. Definitely inspired by some of the indie stuff from the 2000s. But Pallbearer is a doom band at heart, and they write long doom metal songs that drone on. Some people aren't really into the singer, but I think that for what they're going for, it really adds a lot of character. I like Pallbearer's earlier stuff a little bit better, although I have another Pallbearer album coming up. Um, their most recent album that was on Nuclear Blast, I think, wasn't really my favorite, although there were a couple tracks on there that I liked. But this album is awesome. Right from the beginning, I gotta say, Foreigner. It's like a 10-minute track that just takes you on a journey. Um, Foreigner, Devoid of Redemption, back to back in the beginning of this track makes the whole album worth it. I mean, Devoid of Redemption's got the super heavy riffs. It's almost like sludgy at times because I think they play in like drop A sharp or something really low. Um, yeah, really cool, atmospheric doom metal. Not saying these guys invented this style. I hear a lot of Warning, and I hear a lot of the like Solitude Eternus and like those kind of like bands from the '90s that were doing stuff like this. Anyway, that's Sorrow and Extinction. It's probably my favorite Pallbearer album. Here's another one, Heartless. I saw this in a record store and I had to have it because I actually really like this one. Um, because Heartless takes the Pallbearer sound and kind of makes it a little cleaner, but also almost like a Pink Floyd esque type of sound, where some of the guitar textures just sound very well thought out, and the song structures are really good. Yeah, this was the last one they did on Profound Lore before they moved to Nuclear Blast. But Heartless is a really good album. A little bit more alternative. I would say that Pallbearer is a band that kind of goes a little bit more alternative rock as they go through, but still a doom song, still riffs, still the epic voice. The voice is definitely more in the forefront now, whereas in Sorrow and Extinction, it's very in the back with a lot of reverb. So it's just a different style depending on what you like. This song, I would say my favorite song is the last one, "The Plea for Understanding," a very epic, kind of emotional track. Um, I got to give it to them about lyrics. They're very good lyric writers. All right. We got our first pop album, Taylor Swift, Folklore. I listened to this with my partner and we bought it, and I actually like this album. I'm not a big Swiftie, if you would say, but this album kind of, for me, does all the parts that I like about Taylor Swift really well. Kind of the singer-songwriter type of thing. I almost got like a John Denver, not from the voice, just like the way that the songs kind of went about. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But I liked Folklore and I like John Denver, so that's what I have here. Yes, prog rock classic Rush Moving Pictures. What is there to say about Rush that hasn't already been said? Neil Peart, best drummer of progressive rock. I don't even think it's that close, but I mean, there are some other really good ones. But there's people from all sorts of different walks of life that like Rush. I mean, a lot of them wear glasses and are balding, and I'm getting there, but um, I would say metal guys love Rush. Prog rock guys, of course, worship Rush, and even people that just listen to the radio, I mean, can jam onto these songs, which I think made Rush stand out from some of the other bands at the time. I mean, they really just wrote songs that people could really enjoy, and at this point, they were getting into that. I know their earlier stuff, like La Via Strangolato, like that stuff is really good for someone who's really into that type of music, but I think it would be lost upon some people. But then you get like moving pictures, and you have songs like Tom Sawyer, Red Barchetta, and Limelight. People would sing along to that stuff. I mean, it's just really catchy, and I think they would continue with that into the next couple albums. The latter part of Rush's catalog, I'm kind of lost on. It just seems a little like they didn't have all the pieces together in a way. But Rush Moving Pictures is, for me, peak Rush. I like their next album too a lot. All right. Funnily enough, this is the only Metallica album that I actually had. I used to have Master of Puppets, but I don't know where it went. Like 10 years ago, I lost it. But here's Ride the Lightning. Um, I would probably still say this is my favorite Metallica album. Um, I would go through like phases for a long time growing up. When I was first, I mean, Metallica and Ride the Lightning was a big part of me getting into metal in the first place. And I would go through phases of what's my favorite, but I think I always went back to Ride the Lightning. I just think that it was the perfect storm of them coming out of Kill 'Em All, being like really ready to write more aggressive songs. They still had some of the Dave Mustaine stuff there, although people got to get over the Dave Mustaine thing. I mean, he helped them get some ideas together, but he did not write half. Well, he wrote like 4 songs on Kill 'Em All, but his idea there was like 2 solid ideas here from Dave on here, which is the Ride the Lightning riff and then the Call of Cthulhu chord progression, which is fair enough most of the song, but he gets the credit for that. Anyway, Ride the Lightning, Trapped Under Ice, Creeping Death. These are all classic metal songs. I mean, I just really like the blue Lightning electric chair. I think it's one of their better album covers. It's just so in your face. Some of the other Metallica album covers aren't really my favorite. I liked Injustice for All, but like the Black Album and like most of them, even Kill 'Em All, I think has a weird album cover. I think they should have stuck with Metal Up Your Ass. Uh, all right, we gotta wrap this one up. So that's the end of part 2. We'll get into more of them next time.